My name is Jolene Wilson. I am going to tell the story of my daughter coming straight from the mouth of the man who got her where she is, to give all a better understanding on why she is where she's at, and maybe to let you decide for yourself if she should be given a second chance. And if you feel that at the end of this letter that you can write that letter of recommendation to give her a second chance, then I just beg of you to let it happen. So here goes. From the mouth of Brandon Tipton, the real culprit in this whole mess. He writes, "To whom it concerns. My name is Brandon Tipton. I am currently serving a life sentence without parole, sentenced out of Honorable Judge Richard Vance's courtroom in Sevier County, Tennessee. I am writing this letter or statement on behalf of my charge partner in the aforementioned charge, Michelle Tipton. Miss Tipton has not persuaded me to make this statement. I am doing so of my own free will because I can no longer in good conscience stand idly by while an innocent person serves time for a crime that I solely committed. It is in my request that this document be legal and binding henceforth. On the night of October 3rd, 2000, we were at our residence in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I had been doing various narcotics throughout the day. When Michelle came home from work at approximately 10 p.m., I asked her if she would like to join me in the drugs, which she declined, at which time I started to verbally abuse her and pressure her to join me. In my drug-fueled state, I was harassing her to the point it caused her to cry. I also became slightly physically abusive, pushing her and poking her and calling her derogatory names. Finally, she gave in to ease the abuse she was receiving, and once she started, I literally forced the pills down her throat. When she was highly intoxicated, I started asking her questions and probing as to where they kept the money at her place of employment, TCBY in Gatlinburg. She told me that they kept $300 in each of the 2 cash registers and deposit money in her filing cabinet in the rear of the shop. I told her to take me there. At this, she declined. I fixed her an alcoholic beverage and gave her two or three more pills. When she became complicit, I made her drive me to Walmart, and I stole a pair of bolt cutters, and we drove to the TCBY yogurt shop. My intentions were to cut the padlock off the sliding glass doors and burglarize the business. But there was a police cruiser sitting across the street at the convenience store. I walked around the back several times waiting for the officer to leave. When I realized that he wasn't going to leave, I returned to the car and found Michelle passed out. After I roused her from her drug-induced sleep, I demanded that she take me home. On the way there, as we were traveling through Pigeon Forge, I noticed there was a light on in the Family Inns building, where I knew the office to be, at which time I informed Michelle to pull in there, that we were staying in the motel tonight. If it were not for her drug-induced stupor, she would have thought this odd because we were no more than 2 miles away from our residence. I entered the office lobby of the motel and informed the clerk that my wife and I were from out of town and that we would like to view a room before we paid for it. The clerk handed me a key and directed me to the room. I returned to the car where Michelle was again asleep. I woke her and directed her to the rear of the motel. Not 5 minutes had passed, and already Michelle wanted to know where we were and why we were there. She was very disoriented. We drove around to the rear of the motel, and I helped Michelle out of the car and let her into the room. Once inside, I slapped Michelle hard across the face to get her attention, and I told her that we were going to go in the office and she was going to talk to the clerk. She was too intoxicated to say anything. We returned to the car and drove to the front of the motel. I told Michelle to get her ass out of the car and get in there. As I got out of the car, I slipped the bolt cutters under my jacket where I could conceal them. Michelle had no idea what was about to transpire. Once inside the motel office, I walked behind the desk and started looking at the brochures. When Michelle finally stumbled in and the clerk returned her attention to the door, I slipped the bolt cutters from under my jacket and swung them like a baseball bat into the face of the clerk. I can't recall how many times I struck, but I did so until there was no more movement. It was this time I walked over and pulled the phone cord out of the wall. While all this is happening, Michelle is just standing there. She still didn't know where she was. I punched her in the stomach and told her to get to the car. I took 2 cash boxes and went to the car myself. I had her drive me to our house where I pried open the cash boxes. Then I had her drive me to various places where I could dispose of the boxes and bolt cutters. There is no way Michelle could have participated in or really even known what was happening around her. She was like a zombie. She was stoned on approximately 10 to 12 2-milligram Klonopin, approximately 340 milligram Oxycontin, and approximately 1/2 ounce of marijuana. If you're wondering how I could function and recall with such clarity, it's because I'm a drug addict. Over the next 9.5 months, I repeatedly beat, tormented, and threatened Michelle that if she ever told anyone about what happened, that I would kill her too. This statement will undoubtedly come as a shock to even Michelle, seeing as though she has understandably disassociated herself with me. As to why I haven't told the truth before now, I can't really say. I suppose that it was merely me being selfish, thinking that if I couldn't be free, I didn't want her to be free. These are the true and factual occurrences on the night of October 3rd and the morning of October 4th as related to the facts of the information case. I am ready and willing to testify under oath to the facts that I lied to the police to ensure that I wouldn't be the only one in jail. I never thought Michelle would be convicted in a court of law. Thank you for your time, and in this manner, Brandon Tipton. And as you can see, it was notarized. And this truth, even though I handed over most of what Mr. Tipton said in this letter to her attorney, he chose to do nothing to help her defense. Even to the point where he chose to put her on the on the stand, even though she didn't want to be up there. He crucified her. Her own attorney crucified her. So, this is my plea as her mom. I know her innocence. I know what has been done is beyond comprehension for anybody, but if you knew my Michelle, you knew there's no way in this good green earth of God's that she couldn't have done it. She wouldn't have done it. And the only thing that stopped her from telling was his threats of killing her. I know too much coming from a domestic violent past myself with an ex-husband. I know what fear can do, and I know that this fear stopped her from saying anything because she didn't want to die herself, because she witnessed him kill somebody else. So please, I'm pleading with everybody here, please write that letter of recommendation for my daughter. Let's get her home. 11 years she's been gone. Let's get her home. This is the truth. This is the story. This is evidence I handed over that could have cleared her. But this godforsaken town and county makes up their own laws and rules and regulations. And, you know, if you do the crime, you don't do the time. But if you don't do the crime, you're doing major time. And that's what happened to my daughter. Even down to the prosecutor who said, I'm making an example out of this girl. And he knew she had nothing to do with it. So please, I'm pleading as her mom, as her family. Let's get her home. Please write that letter for me. Please. Thank you for listening. Have a blessed day. Be careful in what you do. And remember, I still love everybody. Bye-bye.